at the supermoon there on that clip. That was some video footage from earlier today, just some assorted time lapse and just a little fun stuff there. But we got weather changes on the way, and here's where it's all starting out in the Pacific. Big low pressure area in the Gulf of Alaska, pressure's down to 990 millibars. And we can take a look at the Aqua and Terra satellite imagery, and you can see just how large this system is. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the composition of the cloud material back behind the front. Yeah, I can go over that just a little bit. This is the Oregon coastline right here. This is Washington. And you see a very characteristic baroclinic structure here to this cloud mass. And that's basically a frontal system that's kind of like that. And back behind it, probably an occlusion as we go further north. We're going to expect to find the jet just behind the frontal system, kind of like that. And this is all the baroclinic zone. This is where all the energy is focused. So even though we have very low pressures up here, this is an occlusion. It's being cut off from the thermal gradients further south. And what we have left behind that is a large area of unstable air. See, this is actually composed of cumulonimbus. If we get way down in there, very cellular appearance. And if you're on one of those ships going to China to pick up some goods from Walmart to bring back to the U.S., you'd probably have a very fun time seeing some of the sky here. A lot of vertical development. Now further west, you can find the right chart here. Now, if we go even further west, there's Russia, and you can see they're very cold. And this is where the core of the strongest, deepest, coldest polar areas in the northern hemisphere right now. And we're probably going to expect that to shift eventually over the next few weeks, maybe start to drop some of the temperatures here in North America. But for right now, there it is in Russia. And it looks like some of it's starting to migrate a little bit out towards Alaska. Seeing these westerly winds here coming on shore at Nome and Port Hope. Yeah, I think that's Port. I'm trying to figure out whether to call it that Point Hope or Port Hope. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. Here's the system starting to come onto the coast here in Oregon, and you can see a lot of low ceilings there in Oregon. Southerly winds, and there's a bit of a cyclonic characteristic to the wind flow. See that right there? So there's probably a low pressure system right there. These are things we're going to look for over the next couple of days as these changes start coming our way. In between here and there, though, we've got a plateau high over the Great Basin area right here. It's kind of a cool high, and we get a little bit of, I guess you can call it outflow from the northeast to the southwest, and that's what will give the Los Angeles area Santa Ana winds if that really gets cranked up. Now, the plateau high right now is not very strong, so we're really not seeing that very much, but as that strengthens, and we can certainly see the Santa Anas get started. And it looks like we have actually an onshore wind right here. Inland, though, you can see a little bit of an easterly component right there. Then in Texas here, where we are at, weak northerly flow, a little bit of high pressure up to the north, keeping things cool, and looks like maybe a little bit of a frontal boundary down in the central part of the state, possibly. Okay, let's see, where are we going to go with this? I think we're done with that. Yeah, and there's the large-scale picture, what's happening in the U.S. And the only actually active weather is up in Canada. It looks like a new frontal system coming through that area, maybe something like that. You can see we've got a little bit of downslope to the south of that right in this area. And 60 degrees there in Billings, that's going to be pretty unusual for this time of year. Then in the Great Lakes and the eastern U.S., things are pretty stagnant. Looks like kind of an old polar high that's an old polar air mass that's starting to modify, and that's eventually going to be recirculated to the southwest as the next system comes in. Okay, let's see. I think that's about all I got for those charts. Let me see what I have lined up here. I think we're about ready to go into the forecast here. We're going to switch over to Pivotal Weather. I know some of you guys use that, and show you the website right here. See if that's showing up there. Yeah, there we go. pivotalweather.com. I talked to these guys earlier today, and they gave me a thumbs up to go ahead and use this, and definitely recommend checking them out. Also, for commercial users, they do have custom charts, so you might want to check into that. And I went through some of these maps, and these actually are looking pretty good. We can kind of forward through these, and these are basically the same charts we were getting off of Meteostar over the past few weeks. And let's take a look out in the Pacific and see that next system coming in. Okay, at the very top, you can see we're looking at a 12-hour forecast. It's for about midnight. And there's our low pressure area right here, just off the Oregon coast. And remember, we're looking for thickness gradients. We're looking for this area right here where we have temperature contrasts. And this is an average of density or temperature in the lowest 4 or 5 kilometers of the atmosphere. So we're going to find the front on the warm side of that gradient. And it could be kind of tricky to place it either, you might want to go way down here, or you might want to go a little bit further north. That's where it gets into a little bit of experience and intuition. But you also want to kind of follow the troughs when they do show up. So in this case, I might go with something like meteorologically, that might make sense. And then the cold front would go probably something like that. And here we go. We've got a mature baroclinic low right here. It's not an open wave. It's not an occlusion. It's mature, and it's right there at the cusp of the warm air. So that's what's going to be heading our way over the next few days. And this is actually pretty spectacular. Elsewhere, there's that front coming through Canada, maybe right in here. This is kind of an Alberta clipper pushing a little bit of cold air into the plains. And elsewhere around the country, we just got kind of a warm advection pattern here around the Mississippi Valley. Okay, I'm just taking a look at chat over here, making sure there's no problems, and good. I think we're off to a good start. I did switch off the network to Ethernet. When we cut out last night, that was because of a USB Wi-Fi card that was starting to give out and glitch. So I got rid of that, and we're now on Ethernet. Things should be a little bit more stable here. Okay, let's follow this system coming into the western U.S. This is where things get interesting. For tomorrow night, when we check back in on the webcast, we're going to be looking at this. You can see at the top we've got 30 hours forecast GFS at 0Z. So if we analyze this very quickly, you have to kind of use your, you have to really look at the patterns here and try to find the lows yourself rather than, you know, you're kind of used to these websites painting those things out for you. So you have to kind of get used to doing that yourself. So when we place all the lows and highs, we get something like that. And that makes it easier to actually place the fronts. Maybe something like that. Could also go with a placement, something like that. In any case, that will be coming through Nevada and Northern California when we do the webcast tomorrow night. And right behind it, you can see we've got a little lagging area of precip. And this is what we call an anafront. I don't know if you've ever heard that. You can look it up. With an anafront, you tend to have a lot of the precip back behind it. And that's very common in the western U.S. You tend to get a lot of those types of situations. And that means most of the lift over the frontal surface is concentrated in the backside. So here's the warm front sector here. So this is the next front coming in. Advance that 48 hours to Wednesday. So for our webcast 2 days from now, this is the pattern we're going to be looking at. Looks like a very good low pressure area right there in Utah. And you can see here in Colorado, lee side low, starting to get really pulled together here and developing an actual closed low. Right there around Lyman, Cheyenne, Wells, somewhere in that area. And then the actual frontal zone is going to be back in Utah, pushing through Las Vegas, through Los Angeles, and the Mojave deserts. And you can see, look at those gradients right there. That's going to be a very interesting system. And then we have to kind of, we can't forget the rest of the country. Looks like a front up here in Illinois, connecting back to this. So it's the complete front there for Wednesday night. So let's go into Thursday. See this air mass plunging through Utah and Nevada. So a bit of a winter storm there for Utah and Colorado. And then for our webcast 3 days from now, Thursday, now things are really getting going here in the Great Plains. So front is going to be looking like this, coming through New Mexico and Arizona. Warm front going up through Iowa, Great Lakes. And we're likely going to be seeing a dry line starting to take effect, maybe something like that. And the dry line does not necessarily fall in pressure troughs. That's one thing you have to keep in mind. To really find that, we have to go to the dew point analysis. Fortunately, I pulled that out for you. So let me dew points, go up to 78 hours. Okay, so you can use this dew point analysis, and you're going to look for the western or the eastern side of the moisture gradient. So it looks like on this particular time frame, it's going to extend from about Pratt, Kansas, down to Childress, down to San Angelo, and down to the Sanderson, Texas area. So we can actually transpose that to our analysis, thickness and pressure analysis, and we're going to come up with probably something like this. So you see you're taking data from one chart and putting on another. And that kind of like builds your picture of what's happening, what you're going to be seeing for your forecast there. Okay, let's step it forward to Friday, and that's going to be possibly our severe weather day. Okay, looks like, see here, let me figure out how to get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so Friday night, we're going to be looking at Saturday at 0Z. There we go. Okay, so by Friday night, the system is pushed well into the Great Plains. And we have to keep in mind we're kind of splitting hairs here. There could be, there could be time errors as far as how fast or how slow the system is coming out of the plains. So keep that in mind. Even though this paints out probably severe weather for the Mississippi River Valley, we have a little bit of slowdown of this system. We could actually be looking at Kansas City or Tulsa or Dallas. So as we look through the models, we're going to have to kind of keep that in mind. And maybe that's a good opportunity to look at the ECMWF model and maybe the Canadian model and kind of look at the timing and seeing what that shows. But going strictly by the GFS, we're looking at the cold front coming like that through Little Rock and Houston. Warm front like that. And now you can see it's November. This is the time of year that we're looking at storms on the Great Lakes. We had the storm system that sank the Edmund Fitzgerald. That was like November 10th of 75, right around there. That's because the lakes tend to be very warm this time of year, and you start mixing in a lot of this cold air. That's that will really destabilize things over the lakes. Let's check that out. See, it's taking aim right there on Lake Superior. And the worst of the lake conditions is going to be on this trailing area of high thickness gradients. So right about there, that's when things are really bad. This is Sunday at 06Z, so midnight on Saturday night. So when you're watching a Saturday Night Live or whatever, there, 6C, Saturday night, that's when they're really getting it. And fortunately, I thought ahead also and pulled out the wind analysis, and let me show you what the wind profiles look like in Lake Superior. So here comes our system coming to Lake Superior. You can see trailing region of 30-knot winds back behind it. And then it comes out on the lakes, and lack of friction really gets things really cranked up there on the lakes. See what kind of winds we're looking at. Okay, we've got very deep red color. It's going to put us in the 35 to 40 knot sustained range. So not quite hurricane strength, but definitely getting up there. And then you've got your gusts to contend with also. Okay, so anyway, that will be moving eastward. And most of that is going to head up to Ontario and Quebec, but the front definitely will push into the northeast U.S. Let me scroll this back. Okay, there we go. A little bit of a weak front there coming in on Saturday. Then Sunday, it looks like that comes through into New England, and then we get this very strong area of cold air advection coming in the backside. You see the thickness lines kind of bowed down like that. That's the core of the strongest cold air advection, and we're already starting to set up warm air advection out on the plains, so like a lot of changes coming up here the next few days. And by warm air advection, we've got lows forming here. This is the side troughs along the front range of the Rockies, starting to get that southerly flow and bringing up warm air. Comes our next system. Coming into California right there. that's going to be good for them. They're probably going to get some good rain. There's the lee side trough, and then we're going to get the actual frontal system come into phase with that. Let's see, probably Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, Friday. That's going to be Friday. Here it comes. So next system coming into the plains. And this is kind of a weird track right here. Not sure that's actually going to pan out. So this is 300 hours out. There's probably going to be a lot of forecast error here. Then it brings the next system through, same track, a little bit unusual. But we'll probably see a little bit of change with that as we get later in the month. Okay, let's see here. I think that's about all I got, guys. So I appreciate you checking in, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow night. And I'm trying to get used to this closeout. I'm trying not to do these cold closings because they're kind of abrupt. So I'm going to leave you with this. Going to leave you with this little fade out. Anyway, thanks for checking in, and we'll see you tomorrow.